Okay. All right. I haven't actually done this with the share screen, and you can go back and watch this, but I think this is really interesting. So I'm just going to share this screen now. And what it is you got ABC and the mass media faced with a dilemma. And the dilemma is how to blame the vaccinated when the vaccinated aren't there. And so here we go. Here we go. Hi, Cret. Here we go. So share screen. So and here it is. Boom. So I bawled my eyes out when 11 friends were diagnosed with COVID. They banded together to overcome the stigma. It's written by Sean Johnson. So that's the dilemma they're facing. 11 of her friends are all diagnosed with COVID. And of course, now they've got the social stigma that the unwashed, that that little monkey in Outbreak and Al Pacino or Dustin Hoffman is out there running around trying to find them, but they've all found them and they've come together to say, we're not bad people, even though we've got COVID. Let's move on. So this is her, this poor little thing here. Melbourne woman, Charlotte Webster's experienced catching COVID, and she's more wary. So I'm really sorry, Charlotte, that you've caused COVID. A lot of people are catching COVID now, and you're one of them. Anyway, let's move on because this is the first time I'm doing this, but I want to do it. Catching COVID still seemed like a fairly unlikely possibility when Charlotte and her old school friends caught up over dinner in Melbourne CBD recently, chatting and drinking and laughing together for the first time in many months. Despite living through the city's lockdowns for the the 23-year-old didn't know anyone who had caught COVID. Didn't know anyone who had caught COVID. Okay? A lot of us didn't know anyone that caught COVID. We're all catching COVID now because there's super spreaders out there and we're all catching it. The group of 13 was fully vaccinated. And they wore masks when they left the table where they spent about 4 hours together. And they had followed the rules. There was actually hoops outside, and they jumped through the hoops like dolphins. One of them had like a ball on their nose, managed to hold it up because the waiter needed them to balance the ball on the nose before they came in. Anyway, they followed all the rules, but they had a few days after their joyous reunion, 11 of them came down with COVID. Yeah, making their dinner. What epidemiologists described as a super spreader event. For Miss Webster, confronting the fear and the stigma attached to catching the virus was almost more challenging than the mild symptoms she experienced. So herein lies the dilemma. How do you blame the great unwashed when the great unwashed aren't there because they can't get in? So it's just the washed. It's just the privileged, and the privileged are the super spreaders. So herein, bring in Hercule Poirot or whatever that bloody Agatha Christie's, bring Sherlock Holmes. How's it possible? So let's go on to try find a way to explain why the fully vaccinated, the fully masked, with waiters that are fully masked in a restaurant where everybody's vaccinated, all suddenly have COVID. Avoiding poorly ventilated indoor environments may be wise. Well, why don't you join us? We're not allowed in. Come and eat outside with us in the parks when we eat our fish and chips because we're not allowed in, and be safe. Except, of course, well, you're not going to catch it of us because we've all caught it. We've got natural immunity. Anyway, the dinner party had taken place on a Saturday night. By the time Charlotte had developed symptoms and was waiting on test results, her friends had already begun to run positive tests on the Tuesday. I knew I was not well, so I likely knew my results would come back positive. Still, I absolutely bawled my eyes out when they came back positive. I didn't even know anyone had COVID. Well, you do now. It's you. Even though we lived through nearly 2 years, yada, yada, but something was not really being present in my life. Ms. Webster said in hindsight, she would have taken more heed about the risks she picked up on, like the restaurant she was in was not checking vaccination status. How do you know? And some wait staff were not wearing masks. Why should they wear masks? They're vaccinated. They're vaccinated. How they're vaccinated, double vaccinated. You're double vaccinated. So why are they wearing masks? What is this? This is like brain surgery or a heart transplant. What are you eating? You're eating a risotto. It's not Dr. Kildare stuff. So anyway, we were all sitting there fully vaccinated at a restaurant, and in what we thought was quite a safe environment. So anyway, going back to the not wearing masks and blaming the restaurant. So the first thing, okay, we've got to blame the restaurant. The restaurant wasn't checking vaccination status. So somehow an unvaccinated person got in with COVID, sat near our table, or a waiter got a job somehow without being tested. So it was basically an unvaccinated waiter who'd somehow managed not to get caught up, and there he was. And so he gave it to everyone. So that's how this unvaccinated person came in with COVID somehow and gave us all COVID. But you're vaccinated, double vaccinated. How's that possible? So anyway, so let's go. Nowadays, I would definitely be a lot more stringent about where I'm eating out and what I'm doing. You wore masks. You went to a restaurant that only had vaccinated people. You all sat there together. What are you going to do? You're not going to live now. You've caught COVID. And you're double vaccinated. You're safe as houses. So why are you going to relax? Doherty Institute epidemiologist Catherine Gibney, that must be her. She looks a bit mad because it could be the red hair. Said, as people adapted to life without restrictions, it was important for individuals to remember they could decide where they were comfortable and take extra steps to protect themselves. What extra steps? They're in a restaurant. They're wearing masks. What extra steps? You want to have like Boy in the Bubble? You all have these little plastic bubbles and you go through with, and tongs, and maybe you don't eat. Don't eat at the restaurants. Just turn up in a bubble and sit there and go, at least I was here, and then bring a cut lunch in your own bubble that you made yourself from plants you grew yourself, and then you can sit there and at least you can say you were there and talk through a microphone, or maybe call them on the phone. You got your phone, they're on the phone across, and be safe. Whatever you do, just to grab one more second of air in case you catch this virus, which, as she said herself, gives you mild symptoms. So here she is, this mad woman. I bet she didn't like that picture. I bet she saw it and thought, fuck, I don't like that picture. I'm not putting it down because she's a woman. It's just I'm a photographer, and I know, you're thinking they send out a great photographer. That's the best picture you could take. Anyway, she's a scientist, so she probably doesn't care. Okay, being in a crowded restaurant for a long time that's indoors, poorly ventilated, and not wearing masks. Okay, let's go through this. Being in a crowded area for a long time that's indoors, poorly ventilated, and not wearing masks is one of the highest risk things that you can do. It risks higher than getting in a cage and hand feeding wide-pointed sharks. That's number 3. It jumps higher than jumping out of a plane with a parachute. They haven't attached the parachute yet. You've got it in the bag. You've actually got to put it on as you're falling. That's number 3. Riding a motorbike without a helmet, closing your eyes and just praying for 1 minute that you don't hear anything. That's number 4. But number 1 of the highest risk things you can do is sit in a restaurant for a few hours without a mask talking to your girlfriends who are all vaccinated. What were you thinking? Okay, here we go. Now this just gets better. This sort of the next paragraph, and I haven't actually read this forward. This paragraph is where this person, you suddenly understand that expression. I'm sorry, I don't mean to put you down, but I am, because you're bonkers. Dr. Gibney said fully vaccinated and getting the booster shot if you are eligible were the most important ways to minimize the risk of catching the virus and preventing serious illness if you do contact COVID-19. But they all got mild. They got it mild. They got it mild. And I had it. It's a cold. I've got a little bit of a cough now, but it's a cold. You know, I've actually worked in restaurants as a young guy, and I went to work full of Codral with worse flus than I had with this thing, okay? But it's still a cold. I did get it. So I know, look, why don't we get it like, hey, I've got a pimple on my face. Look, it's a huge white pimple. I know. Why don't we shut down the entire world economy, all of it, you know, lock people in the doors, everyone lock in doors, don't let anybody see each other, because at some point Michael's going to bust his pimple and that press could spread. We could all get an acne, you know? I mean, that's how fucking fucked up it is. I'm sorry, but it's so insane. It's a cold. When we were in school, you know, you'd come home, someone's got measles, and suddenly you all got measles when I was a kid. Everyone gets measles. That's it. And then they go, oh, yeah, but some people die of measles. Yeah. And some people, well, everybody dies. Everybody dies. You die. That's it. But anyway, where was I? It's so crazy. Anyway, so this crazy woman here is now... So 13 people go out to restaurant. They're all fully vaccinated, and currently 11 of them have COVID. They caught it. They don't know how. It's a super spreader event, according to this doctor here. It's a super spreader event. They don't know how they got it. She's saying the most dangerous thing they could do is to actually go out together and socialize in a restaurant. That's one of the most, actually says it's actually the most dangerous thing, is one of the highest risk things that you can do. There it is. So do not socialize with your friends. Just stay in your house for the rest of your life. You know, imagine if we used that philosophy, we'd all still be living in caves. I'd have an animal skin on that I found because I never went out to kill the animal. It just happened to die in a cave, and I used its skin, and I'd just be sitting there, and millions of years have passed. I was sitting in the cave, trying to get up the courage to actually go out and build a society, and that we did that, but instead we didn't. Instead, we faced our fears. We had wars. We crossed oceans. We built and crushed civilizations. Everything went crazy, crazy, crazy until we got to this point. So, you know, we fought wars. We crossed oceans, you know, like the Maoris come from the Philippines. They crossed the oceans in canoes. We built pyramids. Did I say pyramids? If I didn't, I'm saying it again. We built pyramids. We just did all these amazing things all the time, not realizing that being in a crowded area for a long time, that's indoors, poorly ventilated, not wearing masks, is one of the highest things we could have ever done. One of the highest risk things we could have ever done. What were we thinking? We've reached this point in society. We're going out with your friends for dinner. It's basically life and death. So here we go. Where did I get up to? She said, and so what she's doing is she said, okay, these 13 people have 11 people out of the 13 have caught COVID in a restaurant when there's only double vaxxed people. The restaurants are all double vaxxed. They're trying to blame us, but we weren't there. And so she's blaming all them. And her solution is getting the booster shot, because the first two didn't work. So get the third one. Get the fourth one. Basically, if you get enough booster shots, you're absolutely full to vaccine to like here. The vaccine and the virus can't get in. There's nowhere. You're walking around like a tank full of this booster shit. Anyway, if you're eligible, the most important ways to minimize the risk of catching the virus, she said choosing to wear a mask in some indoor settings and avoiding being in poorly ventilated indoors areas with lots of people would be a wise measure to take. But it's a restaurant, you know. It's a restaurant, and if it's not if it's well ventilated, that means there's no one there. That means it's a shit restaurant. I mean, you know that if you go down Lygon Street and you're passing a restaurant and it's jam-packed and there's people waiting for tables, you think, that's a good restaurant. I want to go to that restaurant because people aren't dumb. They're there because either the food's good or it's cheap, or basically the food's good. If you go somewhere and go, oh, here looks good, because there's only 2 people sitting in there, both of them dead because they caught COVID, no one realized, and you're just going in going, no, the food's probably shit. They're probably shit, so we won't get COVID, maybe, who knows? But, at least, it's all fun. Anyway. It could still be rocky in 2022, explains the epidemiologist, whatever thing. So here we go. Don't basically live in fear for the rest of your life. One of Charlotte's friends has serious symptoms that led her to calling the ambulance and being checked into hospital, but luckily no one in the group ended up severely ill. Okay. ABC. Let's look at what you just wrote. One of Charlotte's friends had serious symptoms that led to her calling an ambulance and being checked into a hospital, but luckily no one in the group ended up severely ill. So basically, you got a hypochondriac. That's what you got. You got someone who's freaked the fuck out because they're double vaxxed and then they got COVID. It can't happen. I did everything they said. I jumped through every hoop they gave me and I'm still sick. Oh my God. So she went to hospital for whatever reason. Anyway, none of them are seriously sick. So let's calm the F down, okay? I think we would have all been a lot sicker if we weren't vaccinated. No, because I had it and it's a cold. And not only that, but at the moment, I know lots of people who have it. I do. I know about 10 people who have it. All of them have had it mildly. Mildly. It's a cold. So I think we would have all been a lot sicker if we weren't vaccinated. I know you think that. You just said you didn't know anyone else that had COVID until you got COVID. You got it mildly. Your friends have all had it mildly. I don't have the vaccination. I got it. I had it mildly. All my friends have it mildly. So the answer to that is, you're wrong. It's actually a mild cold. Okay? I'm sorry, but it is. But you got vaccinated, good on you. She said that the initial shock of testing positive had sunk in, a sense of camaraderie in the group, and they supported one another through a group chat. I reckon. Okay. They organized a Zoom chat for a week after they had been to the restaurant, where one of her friends who tested positive encouraged the group not to feel embarrassed about catching COVID-19. You got a cold. It's not the, it's what you think, oh my God, you know what that actually says? This one actually says, we should not feel embarrassed about catching COVID-19. What that means is you're thinking, everyone thinks we're going to be second tiered of the society. We're going to be, people are going to think we're from the second tier. That's what that means. We're first tier. We did everything. We jumped through the hoops. We took the vaccination, but we still got it. They're going to think we're the unwashed. They're going to think that's what it is. It's status. That's actually abhorrent. That's like the Germans going to saying, they're going to think we're Jews. That's what that statement actually says. And that's where we are in society now. They're going to think we're anti-vaxxers. They're going to think we're this. That's the hate they're creating. That's what the ABC is creating, this Sian, what's her name? Sian Johnson. That's what you're connecting. With creating with your writing. The words you're choosing is basically saying they're going to think that they're anti-vaxxers, that there's disgusting people that march calling for, what is it? Freedom, and they go there and they're awful. They're all Nazis. Have you seen them? I mean, they're strange Nazis because some of them are black and brown and yellow and all these other colors, and they're all scruffy. So they're really scruffy Nazis, but they're Nazis. I know they're Nazis. Because why? Because you're fucked in the head. Anyway, so where were we? She said, guys, there's nothing to be ashamed of. This is going to keep happening. It's something we should talk about. I think it was just one of us that tested positive, that maybe I would have felt more embarrassed. Dr. Gibney, that's the crazy red-headed one. Take the booster shot. Booster. Said research had shown in some cases perceived stigma attached to getting COVID had played a role in people waiting to get tested. It's important to encourage people to get tested, but also to let other people know if you test positive. As it becomes an endemic disease that's just circulating in the community, a lot of contact tracing might end up being individually initiated rather than coming from a central public health unit, because you're going to call them up and say, I've got COVID. They're going to go, duh, everyone's got it. It's spreading. I mean, it's just like the cold. They're not worried about it. You know, the COVID testers, when they call me, they're like, where have you been? And everyone that called me up sounded like they're in India. There's someone in Bangladesh on ivermectin. They don't have it. They got ivermectin. And they're taking ivermectin. They're going, no, you got the COVID. Oh, you got the COVID. Oh, and we're at Melbourne. Where have you been? The big thing with the 400,000 people. You think you caught it at one of them? And that's it. You know, I don't mean to be racist there, but that's what they sound like. They all call me with Indian accents, except that wasn't a very good Indian accent. Okay. Dr. Gibney said everyone in Australia should work on the SAPs and they would likely be exposed to COVID at some point in the next 12 months. Dr. Gibney, crazy red-headed woman, said everyone in Australia should work under the assumption that they would likely be exposed to COVID at some point in the next 12 months. So why the hell have we locked down for 2 years? Why have we segregated our community? Why have we destroyed our economy? When it was first happening, I remember a senator getting on saying, we're just kicking the tin down the road. We've reached the tin. The tin's here. Now these people who have done everything not to reach the tin, vaccinated, go out to the restaurant. They've done everything because they know Dan's keeping us safe. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. I've done everything you've done to keep me safe. I went to the restaurant. I caught COVID. I caught it. Who knew that the tin they'd been kicking down the road was actually under the table where I was sitting with my friends and we all caught it, you know? And it was mild. It was nothing. It was nothing. I wonder in this discussion where they were doing this as a sport discussion, did one of them going, look, this is like nothing. It's like nothing. It's like nothing. I've got a sniffle, you know? I guess if you do lose your sense of taste, then you could go to the bad restaurants because it doesn't matter. You can't taste anything anyway. Anyway, that's just another point. It's out there. It's going to stay circulating in the community. So we can't escape it. We can't escape it. We just can't do it. We can't do it. One way to escape it is to catch it. You've caught it. Your body's immune to it. Your body is designed to kill and survive viruses. It's what it does. You know, apparently there's like a gazillion viruses living in us, like, you know, like homeless people sleeping on a tram because they want to stay warm. They want to stay safe and they don't want to know that you're there. So they hide down in the seat and they're quite comfortable there. And you don't know they're there. And if you do know that there's nothing to do about it. And that's how we live. We go through life full of viruses no one even knows. We're that disgusting. I mean, basically see us with other eyes. We're just like a cesspit. You know, it's just COVID hasn't learned the rules yet. COVID is the person going down the tram, you know, screaming and swearing like he's on ice. And of course, you know, it's not this. So you get a few symptoms. But remember when they said 150,000 Australians are going to die of this and basically there's going to be people dying in the streets. I mean, it worked. We did think that's how bad it was going to be, but it wasn't the case. What happened was this girl right up here, hello, Charlotte, 23, 24, managed to get through the whole lockdown, didn't even know anyone who had COVID. Didn't know anyone that had COVID. I didn't know anyone that had COVID. Then she went to a restaurant with her 11 friends, all who sat there and go, do you know anyone's got COVID? No. Do you? No. I don't know anyone's got COVID. We don't know anyone's got COVID. And unfortunately, they all get COVID. They don't know how. They don't know how. And if they knew how, I mean, are you telling me that if they could find the waiter who was unvaccinated, this revolutionary little resistance fighter who managed to stay in his job and go in there and somehow work while sick, or someone in the restaurant who had it, they would have ousted them? My God, they'd have them there go, this person got into the restaurant with COVID and, you know, look how dangerous he was or she was. And she went there to the restaurant and she managed to sneak past the vaccination passport thing, and she sat in the restaurant and she gave all these people COVID, all these people who were double vaxxed. Double vaxxed. They're double vaxxed. That's the problem. They're double vaxxed. That's nowhere in here. Do they even ask the epidemiologist, this crazy woman, do they actually go, but how could 11 people who are double vaxxed catch it? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. What's the vaccination for if they're all going to catch it? And your suggestion is, well, you've got to get the booster. But why didn't you just give us all the three together then? Put them all together. Instead of giving us this little vial, just give us like a milkshake of it. COVID shake. I'll have a COVID shake, thanks. Put a celery on the top. And anyway, where were we? When Victorian government announced last week that almost all restrictions would lift, unless you're unvaccinated, of course, and then you're basically a leper. It also revealed that, funnily enough, now we actually might be safer because, I mean, you guys are spreading it like crazy, you know, so who wants to go to that restaurant and catch COVID from the vaccinated? Dr. Gibney said everyone in Australia should work on the assumption. Yeah, read that. Dr. Gibney said over the coming weeks and months, we should be watching carefully, hoping case numbers didn't overwhelm the hospitals, yada, yada, like a hypochondriac friend who went to the hospital and the hospital said, you're fine, go home, it's a cold. She goes, oh, I got it, I'm double vaccinated. Go home. Go home. We're treating cancer patients and stuff. People, go home. You got a cold, get over it. Stop being frightened of everything. That's a possibility. It's not definite by any means. Hopefully the vaccines will be able to... That's a possibility. It's not a definite. And hopefully, and this is it, and hopefully, I wonder if she whispered that, and hopefully the vaccines will be able to modify to respond to the emerging, able to be modified to respond to the emerging variants. Okay, let's do that again. That's a possibility. It's not definite by any means, and hopefully the vaccines will be able to be modified to respond to the emerging variants, she said. Although the scientists are saying, because everyone's got the vaccine, that the virus is adapting to the vaccine, and so we're creating these variants. I didn't say that. Scientists said that. The sort of scientists that if they dare say that, they get banned off all these media things, and the government doesn't want to listen to them. But unfortunately, they're like, well, they're scientists. You know, other countries can listen to them, but over here, no, we can't. But do you know COVID kind of rewrites the rule books every few months, and it could still be rocky, yada, 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 yada. Anyway, that's it. Now, I haven't done this. I know other people do this, but I haven't got it. So, and I don't really want to make fun of this poor girl who got COVID when all her friends got COVID while they were vaccinated, and in a restaurant with all vaccinated people, no unvaccinated people. My thing for doing the story was how the ABC were trying their best to blame the unvaccinated who went there for this, and then also to blame the fact, or to sell boosters. So one, they all got it because somehow an unvaccinated person must have gone in. That's all in the subtext. And two, get the booster, even though obviously these last two shots did F all, nothing. I mean, this vaccination, this virus just walked through and said, COVID, 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 COVID. All of you gone. What was the vaccine doing in their bodies? They're like 13 of them, 11 of them, all double jabbed, all get it. I mean, oh my God. Anyway, that's it. I've heard about it in gyms. I've heard about it this. The other thing too, there's a video on our site about ivermectin from an English, I think he's a doctor, and he's talking about that. What he's talking about, which is really interesting, is there's two things. One, the Medical Health Board actually says they don't know No, they're worried that social media will inform the people of the wrong dose. And he was like, and he was trying to be calm. If you watch the video, it's hilarious. He's trying to be calm at the start, and he's going, yeah, but the doctors prescribe it. What, you think the doctor's going to prescribe it and the people are going to go home? What does the doctor know? I'm going to get on Instagram and find out what, Lightbulb 49 says. Oh, take 300 tablets a day. Yeah, I'm going to do that. No, so he's saying, so first he finally got there and said, well, that's crap, and then they said that they couldn't procure enough ivermectin because they needed it for the scabies, so they couldn't procure enough. But then he said India makes like 1 billion barrels of the stuff a day. So basically they could get 1 billion tablets from India tomorrow for nothing. Nothing. It's so cheap. And so he said, that's bullshit. So that's on our medical health. It's such an amazing video to watch. And yeah, so I'm not saying that there isn't COVID. I know there's COVID. I got it, or I got a cold that is now being rebranded to COVID. I didn't lose my sense of taste or smell, but, I got a cold. And so now I'm naturally immune. So, yeah, and a lot of people I've got it have it. They're getting the same thing. So I don't have any answers. World's gone bonkers. Anyway, tomorrow we are going to Bendigo. Damien, Catherine Cumming is coming with us now in the van, so we'll be coming up. So it's more like a meet and greet. There's going to be a picnic there for the people that can't go to restaurants in Bendigo, so they're going to have it in the park, and some other stand in the park people are coming down. I think there's some people who have meditation in the park. They're coming down. And so it's just a meet and greet of all these people, and we're going to try to do the show live from there. And do you know how we're going to do it? We don't know. We think we know, but it's going to be live. We're going to interview people from Bendigo and just try and encourage people to come to the march tomorrow on Saturday, the big march. So it's going to be really, really interesting. There's a lot of country towns want us to come there and just do a meet and greet. I think it's a case of just getting people together, that you're not alone. At the moment, I mean, that story I just read out, that could literally drive you nuts. It's just propaganda bullshit where the propagandists face, okay, look, we've got a problem. In a restaurant, 13 people, they're all vaccinated. They all got it. There's no unvaccinated people there. How do we sell this? How do we sell this so they can take the booster? And they found this crazy redheaded epidemiologist, and now they've somehow blamed us, and they said the only suggestion is to get the vaccination. And she actually said, that's the killer. I might use that in the show tonight, actually. She actually said, and I'll share the screen again just so we can see it. Where is it? So she actually said, and this is the statement of our lives: being in a crowded area for a long time that's indoors, poorly ventilated, not wearing a mask is one of the highest risk things that you can do, she said. The only thing she's missing from that sentence, if you're double vaccinated. So basically it's stop living. And that, I think, is why we're marching. Yes, this thing is out there. Yes, we're probably going to get it. Yes, we're probably going to get sick. Some of us sadly might die, as we used to die of the flu. But it's time for all of us to start living. And it's time for us to start healing our community by coming back together and stop being frightened. And it's time for epidemiologists and all the other people to stop scaring us, saying you might end up in hospital, so destroy your life. It's time to stop that. It's time to actually be brave and courageous and just deal with it when you get it. Anyway, that's my early statement today. I had to do it. I was compelled to do it because ABC, you're just full of shit.